completely different story, resulting from what scientists would later estimate was the equivalent of a 10-megaton nuclear bomb, or one about 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, but without the nuclear radiation. A meteor or a comet had crossed paths with the Earth, entered the atmosphere, and exploded just before impact at an altitude of about 5 miles. The affected area beneath the blast was over 800 square miles, and, fortunately, it was mostly uninhabited. The boy and his family were in one of the closest villages to the impact zone, and because they weren't within it, they survived. 80 million trees and the animals living among them weren't so lucky. The damage within the zone where the object exploded was nearly complete. The year was 1908, and it was just another day in the life of the solar system. Chapter 1. Gessling estimated that he had less than 2 minutes to live. The status board in front of him was lit up like a Christmas tree, one decorated with all red lights, and if the klaxon didn't stop sounding soon, he thought he might die before the lander impacted the surface of the moon in what company parlance would deem a hard landing. To Gessling, the best he could hope for now was just a hard landing. Unless he did something soon, he was going to crash. Time did seem to slow down, though his life wasn't passing before his eyes. He wasn't thinking of his last night with his wife Carolyn, or of his parents and childhood. He was completely focused on saving his own skin and the multi-hundred-million-dollar investment that was the lander he was piloting to the surface of the moon. There wasn't much time. Just a few minutes before, the situation board was all green, and he had initiated the main engine burn that would take him and the lander from lunar orbit to a powered descent and landing on the moon. This test flight was part of Space Excursion's latest commercial space venture, and one that would set the stage for landing tourists at the world's first hotel on the surface of the moon within a year. He and his co-pilot, Bill Stetson, had rehearsed the mission for months, and they thought they'd run through a simulation for just about everything that could possibly go wrong. Everything but whatever the hell had just caused the main engine to shut down after beginning the deorbit maneuver. Thanks to the laws derived by Mr. Newton, he and the lander were going to land on the moon. The only question left at this point was just how hard the landing would be. Gessling touched the screen in front of him and called up the latest engineering information about the ship's systems, frantically trying to isolate the problem and figure out how to recover. The engine had shut down suddenly, and that meant that the computer had detected an anomaly that would have resulted in an explosion if it hadn't been shut down. The system was designed to prevent the worst case. In this situation, it may have avoided the worst case, but the second worst case replacing it was not much better. "Paul, listen up. I'm seeing the same data as you, and I think I found the problem." That was the voice Bill Stetson, his co-pilot for the mission, who was on the module that remained in lunar orbit after Gessling and the lander had separated from it. Stetson was not just Gessling's colleague. They were also friends. Bill had joined Space Excursions after retiring from NASA and was one of the few people in the world who had already walked on the moon, albeit in a rescue mission just a few years ago. That had also been one that nearly ended in disaster. "I'm all ears, Bill. What have you got? Be quick, I'm in a bad way down here." "You need to restart the main engine and it should be okay. The sensors in the LED showed that a gas bubble was in the fuel line, and they shut the engine down to prevent an explosion. For some reason, the backup sensor, which doesn't show any vapor, didn't kick in and keep you going. We need to figure out why, but that doesn't matter now. You need to cycle the engine and restart." Stetson sounded cool and authoritative as he spoke. Gessling made a quick mental note that attributed his calm demeanor to his being an old-school NASA astronaut who had faced crises like this before. Gessling felt anything but calm. "Cycling the engine now. And you're sure there's no vapor in the line?" "I give it a 50-50 chance. Seems to be a better chance than what you've got without the engine on and working." "I'll take it," said Gessling as he completed the restart sequence on the liquid methane-powered engine that would now either explode and end his life in literal blaze of glory or provide him with a mere hard landing on the lunar surface. He held his breath as the restart sequence completed and the red engine status light turned from red to yellow, and he felt the harsh bump accompanying the engine start. He didn't die, and he was relieved. "Hot damn! Bill, you saved my skin." "All in a day's work, my friend. Now just make sure nothing else goes wrong in the next few minutes. You've got a ship to land." "Roger that," said Gessling. He looked briefly around the Spartan command center of the lander, watching red light after red light.